Hello everyone, it's me Tom again with another tutorial. This time we're looking at Serum rather than Massive. It's another additive synthesizer, and it was my birthday last week, so I treated myself to a copy of this. I've heard lots of people talking about it, especially in comparison to Massive, obviously as it's an additive synthesizer. I could definitely make a whole video on the kind of my thoughts and first impressions of this, but I'm not sure that would be particularly interesting or useful to anyone. So I'm going to dive in and do a tutorial and show you something good. Today we'll be looking at the sound we just heard there. It's this kind of drop-off thing where it starts off on one note and kind of falls to another. And it's got like a nice little vibrato effect that comes in as well. It's very good for creating atmosphere, as you can hear in this track, which actually features a number of Serum synths I've made. It's this nice kind of lasting thing. I say I made these, this is actually a modified preset, just to be transparent on the issue. We're going to go ahead and make the sound, so here we are with our blank patch of Serum. And we'll start off with the oscillators, as always, in my tutorials. We're going to use the basic shapes thing here, and you get a lot of shapes on one wavetable in Serum. So we're going to set it to the triangle shape here, which is the third wavetable position. And we'll add 5 voices to this. There we go. And we'll set the phase to about the top of the wave shape here. That'll do. And then turn around and down because I always want it from the same position. And then we'll move on to the second oscillator. So for this I used this basic CJW and I put it in bend plus and minus. And there you can see you've got that wave shape going on there. And that's where we get this kind of thick sound. So if I just turn it off, adds a lot of our high harmonics and stuff. So we also want 5 voices on this synth as well. And we're going to set the phase and the random off, pretty much. Well, the phase to the start and the random off. So we'll move on to the filter now. We're going to send both oscillators to the filter. This default filter is fine, it's a low pass filter. We'll scale back the cutoff just a little bit here, turn up the drive, add a bit of variation to our filter, and chuck up the resonance just a little bit here as well. So this synthesizer is kind of, obviously its main attribute, at least the attribute I was designing it around, was having this whole pitching down effect, and this is all controlled by one LFO. Now, I'm not entirely sure I needed to use an LFO to do this. I'm very much kind of learning my way around Serum at the moment, but I use this LFO one here. It's in envelope mode and it's synced to the BPM. Having it across one corner is fine, and I delayed it by a bar so that you get the one note and then the next thing going on. You can actually have that distinction between the two, although you might want to change that based on your tempo. If you're making like a drum and bass track, you know, 1 bar is not a very long time, and if you're doing some kind of slow ambient thing, having this whole bar to wait might not be right. So I've just sort of sketched in the kind of shape that I used my LFO here. It did take me about 20 minutes to kind of get what I wanted. So, you know, just try it yourself. The other thing to look out for is, you know, the start and end times have to be the same level, so you get this weird drop off at the end. But we're going to assign this LFO to the fine tune on both oscillators, the detune of this oscillator, and you can also use it on the pitch of the noise as well. I did have the noise in there, but for the aesthetic of my song, I chose not to go with it. We'll just dive back the settings for the matrix here. So I set these guys to -100. Let's scale this back a bit as well. And we want them all going in this direction, so that you've got this pitching down effect in sync. You don't get any nasty unwanted dissonance. So I think my wave shape might be a little bit too harsh there on the attack, but like I say, you have to really play around with this to get it right. What you're looking for is, you know, something that doesn't happen too suddenly. So, you know, curving the start of this can help a lot. That's a bit better. Like I said, it took me a while to kind of get that right, so I won't be doing that again on video. But you can see the effect we've gone for there, and I'll actually be using this LFO on one of the effects later as well. So we'll go over to the ADSR envelope, and we're going to give this a bit of attack. We're going to add some decay on here. Let's zoom out. Having zoom on envelopes is a very nice feature, and I mean, it's weird, like these envelopes are almost as good as the ones in Absinthe and FM8, but for some reason they've limited you to not being able to add any points to here, so sometimes, you know, using this as an envelope might be better. I think that's probably why I reasoned using an LFO rather than an envelope for my pitching effect. But anyway, we'll add a bit of release, because release is very good for atmosphere. And so the decay is set to about 5 seconds here, and you want to set this curve to be like this, so you kind of extend it just a little bit, and it sort of falls with the rate of the pitch falling off. And then I used this second envelope here. This is where it's going to get a little bit complicated. I had about 2 seconds worth of attack on here. No sustain. And about a second of the decay is fine, no release. And I assigned this to, I believe, yeah, the rate of this LFO. So looks sort of like this, goes in a different direction, I think, yeah. So I guess, well, I can't really explain it without going on to LFO2, so that's what we'll do. This is set to trigger, so we want this to happen every time someone presses the key. We're going to sync it to the BPM and this setting, which I've forgotten the name of, anchor, and scale this back to about 4 bars here. And now for the point. So what we've got is this shape, which I'll build for you really quick. So again, this is not totally correct. What you want is it to look a bit more like this, and that's what the other one looks like, but it's a little bit fiddly, and as I say, I'm still working my way around the synth, but for demonstration purposes this will do fine. So we set this smooth dial to about 37 here, and we need to start assigning this to certain dials. So LFO2 is set up to a cutoff like this, and there you go, you can see it there. Moves in this direction, and this is where our tremolo effect starts to come in. And the idea here is you've got this envelope 2 set up so that, you know, it starts off all slow, and then as you get down in sound, we get this bit at the end here. And this is where our tremolo effect comes from mostly. I also set it up to the level of the noise oscillator, moving in a different direction. But again, didn't use it in the end, but I think you would have to if you wanted to use the noise oscillator. So if you want this effect to kind of linger on a little bit before you get to the end, you can obviously check up the decay, and that'll get you, you know, a longer time before the tremolo starts. So this doesn't sound quite like the original with these LFO settings, but it's something you'll have to kind of work on yourself. I mean, obviously here it sounds fine. The kind of crucial point is getting this start right and the kind of curves around here. But I am still working my way around this since so I'm being a bit crap. So we'll move on to the effects section here. There's actually a few effects in place. We've got the hyperdimension effect, which has been modulated with this LFO to come in and out. And it should again be in the same direction. So we've got it like this, and this because this is because it affects the detune of the synth. So all things pitch I want in the same place, in the same motion. So that's why that's controlled by that LFO. And moving on to this detune, we'll turn that up a bit to really bring in the effect. I'm using the wrong one, aren't I? Okay, so I was using the wrong one, but there you go. That's what it sounds like. And we'll turn up the size just a little bit as well. Moving on, we're going to use a chorus effect to kind of get us this thicker quality to the sound. We're really going to hone in with the mix dial here, turn it way up, and just tweak the delay settings a bit as well. And bring down the rate a bit as well, actually. But you can hear it adds this kind of eerie kind of extra thickness to the sound, especially if you look at the spectrum while I do this. You can see we really get a lot more in there. So the other effect I used was distortion, and I'd actually move this down in the effects chain to be after the chorus. And this will mix in just under half here. We're going to turn up the drive a bit, and this is actually controlled with this LFO, I think. Yeah, LFO 2, and we can just scale back the amount on that a little bit. And the distortion type I've set to tube, actually, that's fine. We don't want the filter on because we're going to use another filter, I think. No, we're not. That's a different synth I'm thinking of. We're going to use reverb after all of this. Again, my advice with reverb is if you're going to use it in the synth, that's fine, but just be conscious of it in your final mixdown stage. In this project, I'm using lots of Serum, so I'm kind of conscious that I've probably built in with all the effects in there. The effects in Serum, I like them a lot. I think actually probably more than the ones in Massive because there's just so many different options here, but I think overall it's better to have effects sat in the tray at the bottom. I don't know, it depends what kind of workflow you support. If you support really getting everything done in one go with your sound design, then doing it in the effects is totally fine. But when you're coming back to a mix a couple of weeks, over the course of a couple of weeks, then it can be a bit confusing trying to mix in like EQ and distortion on a sound that you've actually put all this distortion on and EQing and stuff already. So that would be my advice. So the reverb, these settings are pretty much fine. I think I pretty much used the default settings here. Yeah. So that's what we're left with. I think overall the main differences from this to the original is just that I've kind of got way more of this drop off going on, but you've still got the kind of this effect going on. So there you go. I think I actually scaled back the modulation on the distortion even more than I did. Yeah, maybe. Because that's quite extreme. I might set it in both directions as well. Wrong one. So there you go, Serum. This has been a bit of a janky tutorial because it's quite hard for me to switch between two machines when I'm not quite sure of every section of the synth yet. But hopefully I've got something cohesive and coherent out of it. This sound I think is really useful, and though it's probably quite easy to make a synth that does this pitch-off effect, I think it's quite important to put all the effects in around it and have the right kind of texture to the synth. So there you go, that's hopefully what this is. That's what it is to me, at least. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.